Hello, welcome back. Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain a science fiction action film called Fortress. Watch out and take care. The film begins in a future Canada where the government has prohibited the birth of a second child in order to regulate the population. No one is allowed to have more than one kid, even if the first one dies. An automated voice requests that everyone carry their personal things to the inspection office at the heavily guarded Canada-United States border station. Former Army officer John Henry Brennick and his wife Karen Brennick are in the process of having their car inspected. The pair appears to be concerned about the bill. When Karen moves her arm, a magnetic vest hidden inside her jacket is apparent. Karen is pregnant, and they are traveling to Vancouver to give birth to their second child. The government ties the female's tube after the first child is born. Karen, on the other hand, struck gold and became pregnant again. As a result, the magnetic vest is intended to conceal her pregnancy. When they arrive at the inspection center, the soldiers instruct them to exit the vehicle with their stuff. A female in front of them is arrested for being pregnant while a soldier checks Karen's bag. The magnetic vest, however, prevents the scanning machine from notifying the guards as Karen goes through it. The couple is safe outside, when a guard approaches them and discovers Karen's magnetic vest. When the alarm goes off, the soldiers attack. John defeats them and flees with Karen to cross the bridge. As the soldiers close in on them, John urges Karen to flee without him, and she grudgingly complies. John is quickly apprehended, but Karen escapes. In the following scene, we witness John and other captives being driven to a prison called the Fortress. The mental firm operates a privately owned maximum security jail. The fortress is located in the middle of a vast desert, making escape from the prison difficult. They enter the institution and are forced to strip naked by the guards. A voice in the background greets the captives and introduces himself as Director Poe. The convicts are then led to a room where they are all outfitted with a psychological security intelligence system. The technology is implanted in their intestine and is activated when somebody violates the prison's rules. The procedure is known as intestination. Poe declares that after the equipment is installed, convicts who cross the yellow line on the floor would experience severe abdominal pain, while those who cross the red line will die instantly. One of the convicts becomes agitated and crosses the yellow line. He collapses in agony as soon as he does. He also crosses the red line by accident. The man's stomach begins to swell and eventually bursts. Others are placed in an underground lift. The prison is shown to be 30 levels underground. John and another guy named Nino Gomez are released on a floor. They are greeted by the Z-10 surveillance equipment, which transports them to a packed prison cell. One of the detainees, Stiggs, shouts at Zed, stating that the cell is already overcrowded, but Zed instead threatens to intestine him. A laser beam in the cells prevents inmates from leaving when they are not needed. John introduces himself to D-Day, another convict. As they are going to sleep, the third convict, Abraham, tells John not to dream. Zed arrives to assess the inmates after everyone has fallen asleep. It analyzes John's face and enters his dream. John is having a dream about making love to Karen. Poe, the prison's director, is watching John's dream and developing feelings for Karen somewhere else in the monitoring room. He wakes John up by reminding him that dreaming is an unauthorized cognitive process that is not permitted in the institution. Sharp pain in his abdomen causes him to struggle, implying that he has been intestined. The detainees are forced to labor in underground construction the next day. Nino is sexually assaulted by Maddox, a homosexual inmate. John comes to his aid and defeats Maddox. Zed calms things down by activating the device in their abdomen. Later, all three of them are imprisoned in a tiny laser cell and questioned about who initiated the brawl. To be honest, Nino is terrified of Maddox. To save Nino, John lies and claims that he instigated the brawl. Then he is escorted to Poe's office, where Abraham is shaving Poe's beard. Poe shows John a live video of Karen taking a shower. She was captured shortly after John and taken to prison as well. Poe intestines Karen and John as punishment, making them whimper in agony. Later, Abraham informs John that floors A and B are the women's quarters, implying that Karen may also be present. Then we see Karen in her cell, talking to another pregnant woman. Two guards pull her away as her stomach begins to pain. Everyone in the women's quarter is expecting a child. Karen notices that the facility takes care of their newborn infants. Maddox picks a battle with John in the men's quarter. The guys engage in a fierce struggle as everyone in the complex, including Poe from his cabin, looks on. Karen is astonished to see her spouse from her floor. When John pushes Maddox over the edge, both parties are injured, but he holds on. Poe instructs John to kill Maddox, but John instead assists him. Poe seizes control of the situation and kills Maddox with a weapon that blows up his entire stomach, leaving a hole in it. Before being dragged away by the guards, John discovers Maddox's abdomen device on the floor and quietly hands it to Nino. Karen enters into a room where John is hung in a gigantic contraption known as the mind wipe chamber. In the following scene, Poe has sent her to ask John to assist them. They converse for a bit, but the guards soon haul her out. The machine begins to move along with John, causing him to hallucinate. This is his punishment for refusing to heed Director Poe's command to kill Maddox. As he recalls his time in the military, his wedding day, and so on, John's mind begins to fray. Poe brings Karen to his chamber after 3 days. He is shocked that John has survived this long on the machine because the longest anyone has ever stayed on it is an hour. He gives Karen the chance to release John if she stays with him in his chamber as his friend. Karen agrees since she has no other option. When John returns to his cell, he has no consciousness. He doesn't communicate with anyone and has become utterly numb to suffering. Karen has begun living with Poe. She wakes up one night to find Poe in a chair attached to various wires. As it turns out, he was genetically changed to be an advanced human. He doesn't sleep or eat and only consumes amino acids once a month. The same is true for all children born in prison. They go through various operations to become advanced humans, so that mankind can be free of overpopulation and starvation one day. Poe was one of the first babies to be tested on. Karen is taken aback by the news. After 4 months, John has still not recovered. Abraham informs him that Karen's tummy is finally showing and that his baby will be born shortly. John remains silent but tears a single tear. That night, Karen dupes Poe into drinking alcohol, causing him to pass out. She manipulates John's dream by using the control panel, in which she sees the child version of John stranded in a pit. She pulls him out of the pit, bringing the real John back to life. His imprisoned pals are both surprised and relieved to see him return. John requests Abraham's assistance in escaping the prison with Karen. Abraham is skeptical, but agrees to do it anyway for John. Abraham informs Karen of John's recuperation. She is overjoyed that her idea worked. She claims she can assist him with his escape and begins to formulate a plan. Nina later hands John the item he obtained from Maddox's body. Before going to the prison, their inmate pal D-Day was a computer geek. He offers to disassemble and study the device. Karen then steals a diamond-like holographic lens from Poe's cabin. She nearly gets caught, but manages to conceal the gadget within her mouth. The next day, she gives the device to Abraham and begs him to give it to John. Abraham is reluctant to get in trouble, but accepts the task as a favor. The guys utilize the cell's defensive laser beams to activate the lens and examine the facility's hologram. They discover a route out through the building site. The next morning, Abraham returns the lens to Poe's cabin. Poe requests that Karen divorce John and marry him. He vows he will care for the child as if it were his own and even offers to set John free. Karen accepts the proposal on behalf of her husband and child. Meanwhile, D-Day discovers how the intestinate gadget works. The device is magnetic, and it can be used to extract devices from other bodies. They put the process to the test and are pleasantly delighted when it succeeds. They remove all of their intestinate devices. The next day, Zed alerts Poe to examine the security camera tape, where he witnesses Karen taking the lens and Abraham replacing it. He is enraged to see that he has been betrayed, but Zed informs him that he has been fired due to his negligence. Meanwhile, the lads carry out their plan. They tie their intestine devices to a metal pipe in the construction area and pretend to fight. When Zed learns about the fight, it sets off the intestines, causing them to burst. This opens up a path for them to escape through the pipe. Poe, on the other hand, activates the steam valves and pumps hot gas into the pipes to keep them confined. He also activates the strike clones, who begin shooting at the group from within the facility. They're now jammed in the pipe. Stiggs, one of the detainees, panics and tries to enter the institution again, but the clones shoot him dead. Meanwhile, Abraham approaches Karen in the facility, but Poe discovers them before they can do anything. He murders Abraham and orders soldiers to take Karen's baby and turn it into advanced human like him. Meanwhile, the lads manage to kill one of the clones and discover that he, too, is an enhanced human. John pulls out his gun and begins attacking the other clones. They break into the facility while fighting the clones. They eventually make it to the top of an elevator-like mechanism that takes them up. When they watch them escape, everyone in the prison cheers. They finally make it to Poe's chamber and demand to see Karen. The doctors are attempting to extract her baby on the screen. John threatens Poe to stop the delivery, but because he has been fired, the system does not accept his instruction. One of the killing machines recognizes the men and attempts to shoot them, but they quickly avoid it, turning Poe into its victim. Following Poe's death, D-Day gains access to the control panel and attempts to prevent the physicians from executing the surgery on Karen. A clone shoots him before he can finish the operation. John kills the clone, and an injured D-Day disables the entire facility's electrical system with his last strength. For the time being, the doctors halt the procedure. The security system malfunctions, and every prisoner begins to flee. Only John and Nino have survived. They go in search of Karen and take her away from the physicians. The three get into a car and drive away from the premises. They only come to a halt when they cross the border into Mexico. Karen is about to give birth in a shed when the car they were driving begins to drive on its own. It turns out that the facility still has authority over it. It strikes Nino and kills him. While Karen is in labor inside the shed, John walks out to confront the truck. John strikes the vehicle with the earlier weapon and blows it up. However, the truck collides with the shed, and Karen is buried in its wreckage. A distraught John searches for his wife and discovers that she is safe nearby. She is holding a newborn child. The film concludes with the two adults staring with awe at their child. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.